Well, hey, it's Porsche week. The Comet is back in Siemens for 100,000, and if you want to do the retro custom, the conversion at Benny's, that's half price as well, so you've really got to get both this week. And to celebrate that, I'm going to delay my Datsun episode for a few days, and we'll run in with this pair of Porsche builds for Let's Build. I'm going to start with the standard Comet, and it does have some visual customizations, not bad, but it doesn't have a lot, and it doesn't have any liveries. So you're going to need to find versions of the car that can be defined very much by the paint and the wheels, and I'm going to show you both a build and then some still shots of other things I've done with the car in the past. You'll be looking for the 996 generation Porsches, of course, to make your build on, for that's what Rockstar vaguely copied here, despite the weird headlights. I found this one for sale on Race Cars Direct, £80,000. You could have had it, but too late now. But that's great. It's been de-stickered and it's back to its base paint, which is what you need as we have no liveries. Always put your armour to 100% unless you're never going to drive it. The arch extensions you can see are wrong. I haven't bothered with the brakes, I don't drive it a huge amount. The stock front bumper is sort of the best, I think. The splitter, you see, adds canards. There's a little splitter on the GT3 car, so it's up to you. Do you want to add the canards or not? I went with not. Basically, you always go engine level 4. Now, with the exhaust, we don't want double exhausts, so we're stuck with the single exhaust. They're oval, they're the closest we're going to get. Looking at the lights, I think I've probably got the white lights from the car meet on there. I would tend to go with those. For the number plate, I put a white one on. I can't tell which is the correct colour. There's no rear view for the car. And for the paint, okay, now if we go through, I think you'll see on the classics that something like rolled steel is pretty much the colour we want. So you can just go on a classic rolled steel and be happy. I did a crew colour, but to be honest, it looks pretty much like rolled steel, and it isn't quite the grey I was hoping for anyway. I'll leave the code, but I think if you go in the true colour route, it needs a little bit of refinement. You want no pearlescent on the car. For the roll cage and chassis upgrade, that's easy. Of course you want that for a cup car. And I think the GT wing out of these three spoilers is the one that looks the closest. I wish we could have orange mirrors, but we can't. Competition suspension, you can see it's really close by dumping those tyres slightly into the arches. With the wheels, I've gone Hyperfresh from the street category. They're painted orange, and I haven't done a tyre design because there's none shown on the car for sale. Now, I love Hyperfresh, but I will level with you that I think that some of the Cosmo wheels are much more the right pattern. However, every single Cosmo wheel in the game has a big chrome lip, which we don't want, so hence the Hyperfresh, but I can imagine you may be also picking a different wheel. You rarely see a tinted window on a race car, so that's the build complete. I promised you a couple of previous builds. In 2022, I did a Tech Art GT Street version, so that's a fairly simple build that looks rather good. For 2023, again I went to the Tech Art catalogue and I built this car here. Now again, the build is incredibly simple. It's simply coming down to paint and wheels, really. Using this piece of footage, we can segue to the Comet Retro Custom. This is how it was in 2023, which is RWB's 930 Turbo. Now, you could absolutely build one of those, but if you notice, it has a very distinctive rear spoiler that's not available in the game on the Retro Custom. It also has very smoothed-in wheel arches rather than a sort of bolted-on extension. So here is where the Porsche 934 Turbo scores, something I wasn't even aware of when I did the 2023 tour. The bolt-on wheel arches are much closer in-game to the 934 Turbo than they are to the 930. And also the rear spoiler selection is actually pretty close, as long as you don't try to build one with the classic whale tail, which unfortunately is not available. So now to the Porsche 934 Turbo. I went to Benny's so I could get the interior options, but don't go to Benny's, we'll see why later. This is my second version of the car, so not everything's at maximum. You'll see the first one as part of a project later. Anyway, the armour is maximum, I'm not bothering with the brakes. On the bumpers, this street bumper is, I think, by far the closest. The earlier bumpers have inset lights. As you move down, you get canards, which are not on the 934 that I'm doing. And then as you push further, you get these more shoveled out type, which are definitely wrong. And then we go back to having lights and things in. So street bumper there. There isn't much in the way of diffusers on the back, and these funny little diffusers they've popped on just don't look right. So the back end of the car is weird anyway, but I've done without any form of diffuser. Don't care about the strut brace. I don't open the bonnet. I always take the engine to level 4, to be honest. Now on the exhaust, the stock exhaust do look the closest, and the rest, as you can see, just don't look right. So stock is just a default option really here. On the fenders, just leave them as they are, but just to show you, the other options are either to put vents in or maybe to make them go carbon, and then to switch around the different paints and finishes on the fenders. You can't actually remove them, for example. On the hood accessories, we want the chromed hood catches. That's easy. The hood is a bit harder. I do want some other little vents at the back of the hood round here, which we don't have. And as we go down, nothing really seems to have those, unfortunately. So I've gone for the stock hood in the end. It's just a slightly too smooth. I came to Benny for the interior. Now, I haven't got a good picture inside this particular car, so I've taken a bit of a guess. The sun strip is what comes first. It's not in the usual area. It's called trim design, so that is the sun strip on there. For the dash, I've taken a guess at semi-stripped. We can just take a quick look round and see what semi-stripped looks like. I think it's quite reasonable, to be honest with you. Moving on down to dials, well, I don't see any pod-mounted dials at all on the windscreen of the picture, so we'll stick with that. You know, I left the doors as nothing, but I think that's probably wrong. And flipping on down, I think carbon panel door cards, something like that, would look a lot more like a race car door. So I'm going to change that one over now. Onto seats. Well, it's an older race car. I don't want some massive seat that looks like it needs a hands device, for example. So going through them all, I went carbon tuner seats because I felt the red seat belts looked a bit better, but we are a little bit in the guesswork here, so whatever works really for you. Steering wheels, I did see a picture inside one, and this Apex Basic is a lot more what you want, not the big padded wheel with an airbag. And that's the bulk of the interior options, apart from the roll cage, which I selected the full cage. We have the white lights from the car meet on here. They look really nice, if not just stick with stock. Now liveries, I spent a long time yesterday trying to make a race car with a livery here that was at least roughly like the livery on a real one. I tried ever so hard. I spent so long on Google. I really wanted a liveried one if I could, but I just couldn't find anything that really worked. I love the zero gas one, this one here, and I think if you match the light blue to the blue at the front using my liveries video, I think this could look really stunning, but I can't find it make a real one. I tried this one here. I matched the yellow using the same technique, and it was to do an all yellow build, and I was really pleased, and I built it, and then I find that it fades to orange at the back, and some of the yellow parts looked horrible next to the orange, and it didn't work. This is why we're building the one off the wiki, which is a de-stickered blue car. I think the black license plate looks the best, and for the colour, no need to mess with true colours. Racing blue here really matches the one really nicely. No pearlescent, of course. Same for the secondary. The trim colour, something like graphite or black. Now the skirts on here are a bit too skirty. They shouldn't be quite as bold as they are anyway, so you don't want to make them any bolder. For the spoiler, the drift wing is all one colour, and it looks really like the wing we're after. The tuner wing also looks like the one we're after, but it has black in the middle. And the high-level spoiler is also very good. A lot of them have a sort of whale tail lower wing, and then the upper wing. These three wings, the tuner wing, the high level, and the drift wing, are all excellent. And the only reason I've picked the drift wing on this is I want it all blue. But as I say, unless you want just a pure whale tail, those three spoilers cover most of the race cars I saw. Funnily enough, I think competition suspension is too low, so I've just gone with stock on this one. As I say, no transmission, no turbo. For the wheels, this is pretty easy. You just bang yourself straight into the street category, and oh, this is why you don't go to Benny's. because when you go to Benny's, you don't get the street category of wheels. I have no idea why. But if you do this in your CEO office, you would have the street category. So let's just nip quickly to the auto shop. Okay, so in the auto shop, the Cosmo Mark II from the street category is almost a dead ringer. Really good looking wheel. You might think, what about the Cosmo Mark III, which is also in the street category? But if you go and have a look at that, you'll see that really at this stage the wheel is too big. The tyre is too low a profile for the real car, indeed for the era. It does actually look pretty good, but it's not the right wheel. So a good thing to remember is the first half of the street category are a higher profile tyre. Now obviously you're going to put your tyre design on and you're going to put your bulletproof tyres on. Beyond that, as mentioned before, there's no tint on a race car window, so that completes the build for our Porsche 934 Turbo. Well, there we are, 2 builds and a load of ideas for the Comet and the Comet Retro Custom. Are you buying one of those this week? If you are, please let me know down below. What are you planning to do with the car? I'd love to know. If this video has inspired you in any way, or just because you enjoyed it, please do consider leaving a thumb to help grow this small channel. It would be so much appreciated. Of course, subscribe if you like real cars in GTA, and thank you so much for watching.